Okay, artists, for this week's assignment, we're going to be exploring the use of silhouette, and we're going to use this as the basis of our design that we're going to be working with. So what we have already in our game, and we'll use this as a real world scenario where the game team has gone through and they've built some gameplay, and they know that this rough base shape is going to be what we're using for the game. And now our job as artists is to start doing some design exploration on this particular thing. So we're going to be using Silhouette for this. If you see in this scene file that I provided for you, we've got a geometry folder, and it's got this one craft that we see here. Now what I would suggest is that you duplicate this, just hit Control D and it'll duplicate that ship off. You can select a ship, hit Control H for that entire group, and that'll hide it. And then Maya's got this thing where if we go to our lights in this light rig, if I turn that off, if I hit Control H for that to hide it, you can see it's going to put this in the silhouette mode because we're taking a look at the object with lighting on. So if we tap 5, it'll bring the shading back. If we do 6, it'll do shading with materials and textures. So we've got reflections on there. And if we tap 7, it'll do this reflectivity because that's the only thing that's kind of visible. There's no lighting information. So if we just tap 5, that'll do shading. And now if we tap 7, it'll be just the normal shading without any texture information and no lighting. And so that'll build a nice silhouette for us at that point. You can tap Alt B to cycle through the different backgrounds that you see here. Now if you wanted to make the background pure white, you could do that. You could go to Windows, go to Setting Preferences, then go to Color Settings. And if we open that up, let me get that. It's probably off screen somewhere. Let me pull this over here. If we go to our 3D views, this is where you could change this to be background color, and you could make this into pure white if you want, like that. So that's a possibility for you. If we wanted to do a 3/4 view, I think this is going to be a tougher design challenge for you to have this in the 3/4 view. Now it's up to you if you want to do this 3/4 view. If you do that, I was going to show you real quick how you can save camera information. So there's already a perspective camera in here. If you hit Control D, you can duplicate that, and you can call this something else. Render cam underscore 01, like that. And I usually like to do that. If you middle mouse drag any of these into the viewport, you can see you can store that as a camera view. Now if I want to go back to the perspective view, I've got that, and then this is going to be middle mouse dragged in, and that saves that as a camera view. To make sure that we save the position, because this can get moved on you, you could select this camera, and then I can select this here, and I could select, hold down Shift, select all these, and then right click and say key selected. And then now that camera view is saved. If I accidentally rotate it, I just take the time slider, slide it back, and then we've got that there for this. You could store multiple camera views by just setting hotkeys. So let's say you wanted a view like this. I can just select these again, hold down Shift, right click, say key selected, and then now we can actually get in-betweens for that. But we know if we select that camera and we take a look at the time slider, we can go and make sure that we're going to those particular camera views that we set up for things. Now we've got that as a possibility. The other thing that we could do is if we duplicate this, I'm going to hit Control D, and we'll do Render Camera 2, and I'll set this up, and I'll rotate the camera to try to be as close as I can to be a top-down view, and then straighten this up like this, and then I can start to tweak these numbers and take a look at this. So if I do 0 for that, that's not what I want to do. I can hit the bracket key to get my camera back into view here. So let's try to look at this. I think I need a 90 for this for rotate X, and then this I'll put the translate X 0, so it puts it right in the center of the screen, and then this translate Y. It is possible in the channel box you can click this, and then you can middle mouse drag to change values, and it doesn't look like it's changing that all that much. So let's just numerically type in some values on this, and that's actually zooming in and out from the model. So I think 200 looks pretty good for this, and if I do 0 for that, that could be a pretty good view for doing like top views. And if I don't want to move the time slider, I can middle mouse drag it, or if I just want to drag it over here, I'll put it back on the front here at frame 1. I'll just select this, hold down Shift, and then right click and say key selected, and then now that'll give me a camera. If I mess this up, I can just go back to this like this. Okay, so this is completely up to you as you've duplicated this thing off and you want to change the design. You can add or subtract as many pieces from this as you want. So maybe I'm getting rid of this, hitting Control H for these things, I'll hit Control H for that. I've got these wings on here. You're free to make your own shapes for wings. Let's say I wanted to pull these down. I can hold down Shift to duplicate these out. If I right click on this and say vertex, I could choose this. I'll do a Control Shift, right click, and then do symmetry, and I can turn symmetry on or off, and I'll do I can do world axis like this. And at that point, if I drag these pieces around, let's do Shift, right click, symmetry. I've got to turn symmetry on. It just accidentally turned it off. And so you could do things like this where you're going to manipulate these shapes, and again, it's completely up to you what you want to do as far as shapes that you're adding to this or subtracting. You can take this main shape, you can tweak out the geometry as much as you want for this. Remember, if you select verts, you can tap B to turn on the soft fall off on this. If it's really large, you can go into your settings, and let me drag this onto the screen real quick for you, and that's under soft selection, and we can take the fall off radius of that and drag it down like this, or you can hold down B and then click and drag to drag that up. So then that way, if I'm scaling these things in and I'm moving them, I can do it with a soft fall off like that. So it's really up to you how you want to kind of take the shapes, push and pull them. You can completely move the geometry out. Now, what I would like for you to do is to keep the size fairly consistent and keep it in 3D in the basis of your design. That way, if we choose some designs and we push them forward, it's actually going to work in 3D, and it'll actually work within the little mini game that we're going to develop. So again, this is just kind of a real world exercise for what would happen on the game team, and if they've already got some stuff established for that, and you want to keep those designs to where you're exploring design options, but you're not going to do anything that's going to change the gameplay on things like that. So this little thing that I've done here, and I've done this pretty quickly just for a little demonstration, this could actually be one of my designs that I've got. Okay, now as you make designs, I did want to call out that I'm going to load up PureRef real quick. Okay, I'm providing this board for you, and what I'm using this as is if this scenario where we've got an art director that comes in, and the art director is kind of going to give you a couple different images that she wants you to take a look at and use as the basis for driving new designs. So you're going to be the concept artist that this art director is working with, and they're going to say, this is some of the images that I found, and I'm kind of inspired by these different things, and I like the elements and the paneling that's going on in here, some of the bigger chunky shapes. And then from Robotech, I'm really liking some of these bigger kind of shapes that you see here, and some of the cannons. They've got these different rocket boosters on here. Same thing for this, kind of inspired by the back of this for the rocket boosters, what's going on here. Really liking this more kind of angular design for these, and maybe multiple wings, and that could be something to kind of explore. Really like some of the chunkier shapes that you see on here, some of these different like antenna looking things, and light sources, hydraulics. And we're not in the stage for looking at mood and lighting, but then just kind of some more pulling out some of the different shapes that you see within here on this. And so then this was just some design exploration that I was exploring, but trying to just have some kind of feeling of maybe retro side scroller kind of shooter and bringing that into a 3D world. So the mixture of all those things is the basis of what you're going for your design. So if I go and I hop back on over to Maya, let me load that up and go here. So you would keep those things in mind as you're making some of these silhouette changes. Now I've shown you how to use the snipping tool. If we do the Windows key and just start typing in SNIPP for that, you can find the snipping tool pretty easily. I like to use this mode for rectangular snip and then just grab a part of this. So I'll just do new snip and then grab this. And then this is where we're going to go into Photoshop. So this is copied into the clipboard. We'll open up Photoshop and then we'll make a new document. And what I was suggesting was that we use the size from my monitor, for our HD monitor. Let me go to display settings and I'm just going to get the resolution of that. So the resolution that I'd like you to work at is 3,840 pixels by 2,160. We'll go ahead and do that. On color mode, I'm going to put this on RGB color. Let's hit create. And then this will make our new document for us. And we should be able to just hit Control V and then paste that in. And then this would be one of our designs. And so I'm going to suggest that we do at least 9 of these. If we do the magic wand tool, I should be able to select on that and just probably knock out the background. Now at this point we could do a solid color layer, and then I could double click on this and open that up, or I could just change this. So if you're not going to work in just pure white, you can change the background this way. That's one way that you can get these things out. And you could call this design 01 like this. I can get Control G or make a folder group and call this designs. And then maybe I'm taking this and then just going to duplicate it, just drag it down to the new thing here, tap V to put it on the move tool, and I can drag this out. And then maybe now I got 2 of these. I'll just hold this, hold down shift, select it, click new down here for that. And then I've already got it on the move tool. I can move that over. So I've got I got the potential to do 8 different designs. Let's drag this over. Let me drag all of them over at this point. And I think I'll do one more like this. And then drag it all the way over like that. So maybe in some setting like this, I'll hit Control G and call this top. And if you're being more meticulous, you would go through and name each one of these, and then I can just drag this down to new and I'll duplicate that and I'll call this bottom. Drag this down and hold on shift and I can drag this down like this. And so then now I'm going to be doing 10 different designs, so maybe that fits on here a little bit better. And then for me, what I could show you is I'll make another solid color layer and I'll just make it black. And I'm going to put it up above this background here. Now we can fill with either foreground or background here, like this. So this is considered background, which is interesting, but this is considered foreground. I hold my key up to the, you see there's an Alt and a Control off to the right side. There's a Control and Alt to the left. I use my right hand and hit Alt backspace to fill with this right here, foreground, and then this is background, and I use Control backspace to fill with that one. So get used to that. I think that'll be good for you to use. So I'm just knocking out that entire thing with this filling that mask, and I'll tap M for my marquee tool, drag some kind of thing here. Let me take it off this fixed ratio. I'll drag something like this all the way across and then just fill it with white so you can see Control backspace. Like here, sorry. Sometimes Photoshop gets stuck in some window and sometimes I gotta hit escape for that. It's the most annoying thing ever. There we go. Now we can fill with that. Now I just want to knock back the opacity of this a little bit, right here within here, like this. And again, now with the solid color stuff, what is cool about this is if we want to raise that up a bit, you can make it pure white if you want. It's completely up to you. And then within here, I can do text. And so I'm going to hit this right here. You can flip-flop this by tapping X, and then I'll go into the text tool. And I want to lay this out. And I will push this off to the left, and then I'll just say my name. And it should give me this here. Let me tap V and see if I can find where this is sitting. And let me put on the text tool. I'll make this white like this. Let me just hide everything. And let me put this on black like this. Okay, that didn't work all that well, so I'm just going to put on the text tool and just tap on the screen, and maybe I'm just not used to some of these new things within Photoshop. So it'll give me this text thing, and I can just start typing. So I'll give myself my name. If I click and drag this, I can change the color of this, and if I make it white, obviously that's going to make it difficult to see until I put this down here. But we've got size, so the size is really large. I'll put this on like something like, let's try 60 at this point for that, and I can just push this over here. And let's choose our font type, and I'm just going to do something simple like Arial, like that. And so then I could keep this here. And if I have it on the text and it's selected, and I have it on the move tool here, I can hit the up and down arrow key, and I can just nudge this stuff over here. And I'm just going to duplicate this and then move it over, holding down Shift to drag it over. Now if I tap T to go back into the text tool, I can edit this, call this main ship. Main ship designs, round 01. And I think we could just add silhouettes to it. Like this, and if it gets a little bit larger, I can click off that and then put it on the move tool and then just shift it over like this. And I never can spell and type correctly, so we've got that. I think we're good to go. And I'll just push this over just like this. It's on the move tool, and so I can just nudge this stuff over like that. So I'm just going to keep everything on there and try to keep it nice and tasteful for this. So you're going to do these different designs. I want you to use 3D as part of the process, but you're free to use 2D as well. So one thing I did want to show you is with our brush tools. Let's say we make a new layer like this, and I'll tap B. If I want to do a hard edge brush that's on or off, I can use this comic book nib 20. And then Photoshop also has this thing where you can turn symmetry on for vertical, and you can actually take this and move it wherever you want. So you could put this line in the center of this design here, and you'd have symmetry going on there. And if I just leave it right here, I can scale this up this way, I can scale this down this way, and make a line going all the way down the center of this thing. I'll just click off of it, and then now whenever I draw with my brush, I'm going to zoom in on here, so you can hit Control Spacebar and tap. You can do Control Alt Spacebar and then zoom out, or you can interactively do it. Control Spacebar, just click and drag. That'll zoom in and out, and then Spacebar is going to move over here like that. So now we have the ability. Let me go ahead and put this on black. Make sure I'm on the right layer. We can draw with this. If you want to draw straight lines, hold down Shift and you can do straight lines like that. So this might be an easy way for you to add maybe some variation for weaponry, things like that. Maybe you're going to do some slight shapes like this on here, right? Now, I just noticed with this top here, I'm not actually completely symmetrical with things. If I hit Control R in Photoshop, this will bring up the ruler. And if I'm just going to hide these designs real quick so I get access to my blank page. If I click and drag out, you should be able to find the center point. Like if you click and drag out your ruler, you'll notice in the center it kind of snaps right there. And now if I bring this back, if I do View, Extras, and I show you do grid too. That's something that you could potentially do for that, but that's not what I'm looking for. If I hit Control H, I can turn this stuff on and off. So I don't want the grid. I do want my guides. So I had to get Control H for this. I don't know why my guide was just over here somewhere. I've been having some mouse issues and stuff like that, but no big deal. But I can take this thing now and put on the Move tool. Let's see what they actually call this thing. The Move tool, V. I can hold down Shift, and I should be able to drag this and get this to go right in the center at this point, like that. So then as we go back and tap B for our tool for this, and we go vertical, let's just make sure it's right down the center, and we're good to go on that. So I can go back into here and go back into our layer. And if I was being good, I would rename this like this. And then at that point, I can continue to draw onto this. I'm just holding down Shift again. So some of the stuff, it might be pretty darn simple to draw this with. Again, what I think is attractive about doing it in 3D is, especially from an art director standpoint, is they know that those things are actually working in 3D. So when you actually go to build that stuff, you've got a template that you can start working with for things. And I'm not going to spend too much more time on this. Now I could be doing this with a fill layer too, so I can, or the solid color layer. So if I hold down Control and select the transparency of this, I can hit solid color, and I can easily turn that into a new solid color. I can get rid of this. I can rename it. And at that point, we would be using all the things that we have at our advantage for using the solid color layer. So I'll hit Control R to get rid of the ruler, Control H to hide this this stuff, and then if I symmetry off, turn that off. You can see this is what we're going to do, some kind of setup, some kind of layout like this for our designs. The last step that I think would be pretty important on this is if we take the text tool, and I'll just do either, you can do A, B, you can do 1, 2, whatever you want to do. It's completely up to you. I'll just do this, do an A, and I'm going to duplicate this and hold down Shift as I drag this out, tap T, go B like this, and then drag this out. Then we're going to do C. We should actually line these up in the same spot. So go back to C. What will be C? Go back to B. Like that. And again, if you looked at what we did before, you can take multiple things, click and drag it out, put in the move tool, and you can duplicate these things down. So I don't need this last one, but I'll drag this out like right here. I don't need this. See? Let's tap T to go into there. Control Enter will finish this. And I'll do E, Control Enter to finish that. And then I can drag all of these, duplicate them, move them down into the bottom one, put on Move. Oops, not drag the whole thing down. Sorry about that. I'll open up this group, select these, and then do this. Control Enter. And I know this is a little bit of setup, but after you get this set up one time, you could share these designs with other people in the teams. You could save this off yourself, and now you get a template for yourself. And definitely want you to go through this process and build yourself a Photoshop template and get yourself used to that. The other thing that we do with these is if we take the opacity, you could drop these back a little bit, just so maybe they're ghosted back, and you're just looking at the drawing information and everything that you got there. So that's another possibility for you. But hopefully this is enough information to get you going and have you explore some designs, and then use Photoshop a little bit in conjunction with the 3D and get something cool made.